So I need to admit when I choose the title of the session, I use perhaps words that would be very eye-catcher for you. So to be sure to be in the program and to have your attention for 20 minutes. Yes, the talk will be about basically AI, the volume of code generated by AI, and in particular, in relationship with open source project. And something that is really, really important to me is how are we able to measure the contribution and the commitment when it's so easy to generate code that could be plausible, but most of the time meaningless. So my name is Philippe Ensarguet. I'm working at Orange. I'm VP Cloud and Software Engineering. Basically, with my team, we are building the infrastructure that today are making happening the 5G, the IP networks, and the RAN at Orange. And I'm also Orange fellow. My connection with open source is quite easy. I'm representing Orange at the board of the Linux Foundation Europe. I'm the vice chair of the governing board of the Silva project that is extremely important in the telecom industry for the infrastructure. And I'm contributing since multiple years to report at Linux Foundation Research and heavily imply in the Linux Foundation networking project, because it's where most of the projects related to telco industry are happening. So just a quick poll to have your attention. I would be very interested to understand in the room who is maintainer right now, who have been maintainer in his life. We have some. Okay, thank you very much. I would be very curious to understand how much of you have received a pull request in the last months that could be suspected to be AI generated? Okay. And yes, the problem is that you certainly spend a long amount of time before understanding and realizing that the content that have been generated is most of the time worthless. And when you are multiplying, I would say, by a volume at the speed at which AI is able to generate code, it's really raising question to me, and I hope to you as well, about what is the true sustainability of the ecosystem that built up to now. So I will move on with something that could be, at first look, quite a bit provocative, but let me give you the background story of this. So yes, I think that we may have lived in a kind of beautiful lie that open source is built up on the fact that code is contribution. And that perhaps some of you here have this thought in mind. And for me, it has been never the case. For me, for all the time, the code was only a proxy. And I think that the word proxy is extremely important. It was a proxy for understanding, proxy for investment, proxy for belonging. And something that is extremely important is that between the code that acts as a proxy and all the other topic, we got this friction part that was the filter to measure how much you all here are committed to your contribution. For decades in open source, I would say it's a moral contract between contributors and maintainers. For contributors, it's a way to learn. It's a way to, I would say, get upskilled. It's a way to be promoted, get recognized, and to be part of something that is bigger than yourself. For the maintainers, I would say the idea is to steer, to drive, to give the North Star, and to mentor and to get trained the contributors of your project. And we all know that we have this very important moment in time where when you are contributing, basically you are committing code and you are making a pull request to get your job and your contribution promoted in the project. And it's where the things are getting very interesting, because at the end of the day, we may see it's a technical topic, but okay, we have to clone, we have to manage the software development that you want to add, but to be really relevant, you need to understand the code base, you need to understand the architecture, you need to understand all, I would say, the implicit choice that could be felt within past PR and the story of the project. All the scarces that the people working in the project have gained, it's not something that is well documented. So what I just want to emphasize here is that I would say, I think that for myself, I perfectly remember the time, how much I was scared the day I managed my first pull request. It was something that I really show how much I was committed to the project. And what I want to emphasize here is that it's exactly in this friction relationship that was the filter. And this filter was extremely important because it was a way for the people who were driving the project to measure how much you are committed and how much you are involved in your contribution. It was something that cost to you, okay? The real question today is that with computing effort that is tending to almost zero, what is the value of the effort? Where is the effort? Where is the friction? Is the friction still something important? And it's exactly what I realized when I was reading a very, very interesting paper I strongly recommend to have a look at that have been written by Kate Alteroff from Red Monk. And she perfectly depicted the fact that the social contract between the maintainers and the contributors is about to be ripped up by this AI slope. And when I'm talking about this AI slope, I think that we have a lot of weak signals, and amongst the months, all those weak signals just become mainstream signals. So we have the decision that have been made by Michiel Hashimoto on ghostly defense, so that totally and immediately put a zero tolerance policy on the project. We got the Daniel Steinberg curl bounty shutdown. We got multiple examples that some of very, very famous maintainers of project take very, very radical and very strong decision about the way they want to behave with what AI was about to generate. And when you are taking time to just understand what's happening in the news, you are about to observe a lot of information about what's happening. And for me, the phenomena in front we are today is what we are calling the AI slope. That was part of the title of the session. And for me, the AI slope is about, I would say, something that is a content that is unrequested most of the time with a very, very low quality, and that is often developed with hidden logical fallacies. And I think that all the words here are very important. And we are navigating to two things that for me are extremely important. The first one is that once we started to work with generative AI, it was supposed, I would say, to speed up, accelerate, steer, frame, basically our software development. But in reality, the amount of the size of the title that the submission code we got basically raised much more problem than it solved. And on the other way, if writing code is something that is becoming effortless, what about the impact on the people that are about to read and to verify and to check how we could basically push the contribution up to production? And what I want to emphasize here is that we have a kind of asymmetry that could really overwhelm and pose a lot of problem, according to me, in terms of sustainability to a lot of projects. And you know, it's like something that is a kind weird, it's kind of, you know, that this with AI Slope, we are talking about the content. It could be also documentation, it could be image generation, it could be a lot of different things. Most of the time, the feeling is that we are reading something that could be plausible, but that is totally meaningless. And for me, we must be very cautious because it's hurting from all the parties. On one hand, we have all the vibe code slop where you could basically submit code that put all the checkbox in green in your CI, that are passing all the tests, but at the end of the day, is the code that is green for all the gates, is making the project moving forward? I'm not sure. On the other side of the equation, we have this hallucination loop where if maintainers are using AI, basically it's amplifying all the effects that have been, I would say, initiated on the vibe code part. And the one that for me is extremely important, I really insisted previously on the cost and the commitment in your first pull request and how and all that you were about to learn. That is really for me under a strong stress, because all the kind of gateway for supporting the way to drive junior engineers is really turning into something that is not sustainable anymore. So something that is also very important in my talk here is I'm not here to say that it's not an anti-AI story. I'm not pretending this at all. Within the open source ecosystem, I know a lot of contributors and maintainers that are daily using at a very high scale AI for coding. But the question is about the value and the meanings and the contribution, the depth of the contribution that you are bringing here. And here there is a quote that I found very funny to mention about Michiel Hashimoto about the binary generated code from the project he's driving Ghostly. It's not an anti-AI stance. This is an anti-idiot stance. So I think we must be very cautious, and it's interesting to always question ourselves about this. When I was trying to understand what was happening, perhaps to most of the communities or the project that you may be part of, for me, we got 5 different contribution stacks. Of course, the first one is about the syntax. It's the basic compilation layer. Then the second one is about making sure that the code is running, that is passing all the tests. So I would say it's still something that is technical. But your contribution and the way you are be part of the project is way much more than those 2 layers. It's about understanding decisions that have been taken years ago from you that are still valid and you need to comply to. It's about understanding the intent and the commitment you are putting on what you are doing, about the layer 4. And the last one that for me is perhaps the most important of all is the mutual trust between humans that keep communities together. And why I really want to emphasize here is that if you understand the 5 layers of this contribution stack, you are understanding now that with AI Slop, you are only able to automate the first 2 layers. And I think that if we want to navigate toward a new stewardship into our project, I think that we definitively need to take time on the layer 3, 4, and 5, because it's where the differentiation about how to understand what contribution really means could happen. So we are, in fact, in front of something that could look like an asymmetric cognitive burnout, how our communities and how our project can be still sustainable if it's spent and if it takes 30 seconds to write code and 3 hours, I would say, to do the review. We are in front of something that is absolutely unstable. When I double-click on the situation, it appears to me that there could be 3, I would say, different practices that could emerge if we want to move forward. The first one is really perhaps to ask ourselves what in 2026 and later on, what would really mean a contribution. So of course, it's still a long time while we don't count anymore the number of lines that software developer is implementing to understand the value we can bring in the project, and much more about rewarding the triage, the code review, the documentation, and about the business or the context understanding of the project. The proof of engagement, I think that we should much more make not implicit but explicit the understanding of the intent of the contributor. And the last one, I think that on the platform that we are using to host our project, whether is it the platform of the foundation or the GitLab or the GitHubs of the world, I think that we will definitively need to have tooling to support, I would say, the automation of this triage and manage all the filter that we can for the AI triage to be sure that we are, as maintainer and as a community, spending time on what really worth time. So I try then to look in the crystal ball for what could be potential future scenarios. And I'm pretty sure that you won't like this, or you won't like some of those. The first one is the one that I'm calling the walled garden. Honestly, we have, for me, some very, very important open source projects that I recognize as something that are core, totally in the foundation that is building up what we are having on top. We could be moved to something that is perhaps having only an invitation only to be part as a contributor and keep the code source, I would say, available, but it will be closed for contribution. It's a way to manage the safety commitment about the contribution from a very small amount of people that you endorse about their capability to make the project moving forward. So it's not a very shiny one, but for very core and foundation project, it could be an option. The second one is about the verification layer. So here, it's really to have perhaps a new generation of platform that could support our open source project and bringing basically new tooling to help to drive the AI triage that I mentioned earlier, and where identity and credential replace the automated friction. That is no more something that is really easy to manage. And the last one, that is called the bifurcation, is basically recognizing that we have projects that are absolutely core, that could be locked under the walled garden, and having on top something that could be much more open and relying on the verification layer that could automate some of the management. I'm pretty sure that you must have in the room multiple other scenarios, but something that for me is very important is that we absolutely need to understand that the way we manage projects up to now and the practices that we got in the past are in the past. And I think we really need to understand that we need to set up new practices to really manage the sustainability of our project and our community. And I would say that for me, if I have one final slide to share with you, I would say that, honestly, we don't need more code. We need more care. I think it's extremely important. And for me, the question with the AI era, and in particular within the open source ecosystem, is not about production scale. Okay, scale is a question. But the final and ultimate question for me is about the review capacity and the human stewardship. And I think that for the review capacity, we really need to have platform level up their capabilities and bringing, I would say, some ideas of tooling that I'm presenting in the left side of the slide. And on the human stewardship, I think that we could perhaps set something that could like a contributor context card, where with very, very few questions, you could really measure how much the person who is managing the contribution is committed and is able, I would say, to contribute. So for me, there is three things that are very interesting and important to remember. I think that, yes, you know the filter that I insist about, the friction. This filter is no more here. whether we like it or not, this filter is no more here. So most of the practices that we use in the past need to stay in the past, and we need to move forward and identify new way of managing the community and the project. And I insist, it's not a talk that is against, I would say, AI. The question is really how to redesign a social contract between the different parties. And the last one, that is perhaps the most important one, yes, we don't need more care, we don't need more code, we need more care. And for me, when you remember the 5 layers where you could manage contribution as a human, while we will keep our focus on the layer 3, 4, and 5, it's really where we as humans will make the difference. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Philippe.